targets for the young adventurer who strikes them away without difficulties whatsoever. But now that the nuisances are lying unconscious on the ground, Nenya makes her appearance, glaring at Wazu as she confirms he's stronger than her initial expectations. Wazu is taken aback seeing the beast folk here, but it turns out she has no evil plans, given that Mir returned safely, and Nenya is just testing if Wazu can really be entrusted with Tata. Thanks to the results of the test, Nenya finally admits that this human adventurer is stronger than her. Thus, Wazu is worthy enough to hear the truth from Nenya. Afterward, the girl reveals that Tata's debt is utter nonsense created by the city's landlord, who made the woman's family suffer from fake loans and charges to make Tata's body collateral and enjoy it for himself. Hearing the shocking revelation, Wazu gasps in surprise and rage, especially after learning that all of these are the hideous plans of the wicked city lord. Without further ado, he returns to the jewelry shop where Tata is waiting, then walks closer to her with a serious look on his face while the girl is complaining to him for suddenly running away when he should always be by her side as a bodyguard. Fair point. As her face reddens, Tata clings to Wazu's arms to stop him from running away again. But the adventurer is still not opening his mouth at this point, until he suddenly grabs Tata's shoulders and yells at her to say there's nothing to worry anymore, hysterically assuring the woman that he's by her side now, and once again shouts the reassuring phrase. Surprised, Tata pats Wazu's head and guarantees him that his passionate words manage to reach her heart. Due to Wazu's embarrassment, the goddess takes over the explanation even though we can't see her and reveals Tata's secret. As you already know, the city lord makes a fake debt to force Tata into becoming his woman, which causes the girl's parents to sacrifice the necessities to pay for it and Tata to perform her current job. Along the way, she meets Garrett, Nenya, and Reagan, turning them into companions to help collect evidence that the debt is just made up. Now, they are close to unveiling the truth, but the mercenaries enter the fray to forcibly take Tata, so that's when Wazu performs his role as a new bodyguard, and of course the goddess will provide her full support. Admit it, Wazu, she's noisy, but somewhat reliable. Anyway, the shopping continues with the receptionist assuming the two are looking for matching jewelry for couples. Moreover, she leads them toward the section where it is located, making Tata and Wazu blush in embarrassment thanks to the nosy shop staff. Seriously, you have our gratitude. Out of the blue, Tata asks if she will look like a normal girl when hugging Wazu's hand, so the young man replies with a pretty obvious answer. Wearing a sweet smile, Wazu tells Tata that she's far more beautiful than an ordinary girl, and even though it is not by any means what the lady is referring to, she simply closes her eyes, flustered by the adventurer's words. However, Tata remembers the bitter memories she has in her line of work, along with the thought that loving again will be utterly impossible. But as the captivating couple's rings show up in front of their eyes, a flower of romance once again blooms inside Tata. The products are mesmerizing, so Wazu decides to get one for Mir, while Tata, on the other hand, asks the receptionist what the ancient letters engraved on the rings mean. "I hold you dear." These words show up on the man's ornament, while the message conveying "I only look at you" is the heart-skipping ancient note carved on the woman's ring. Amazed, Tata's eyes brighten as she hopes that a tainted lady like her will also be allowed to make such a small romantic wish. Merely thinking about it makes her heart beat so fast, so Tata doesn't hold back anymore and asks Wazu to put the ring on her finger. Side by side, they enjoy the view of the sunlight hitting the window, bringing illumination to the romance tokens on their hands and making Tata feel that she's an ordinary girl falling in love. Thus, Tata gives this as a gift to Wazu, with the pretense that it's her gratitude, even allowing the adventurer to wear it only when they meet to not hinder him in his battles when taking quests. With that condition, the two promise to one another, and Tata is now one happy maiden in love as Wazu then escort her back to the mansion where Nenya and Mayar are waiting. Waving goodbye, Wazu thanks Tata for giving him a ring, which leads Nenya to conclude that her beloved older sister figure is falling hopelessly in love with Wazu. Unfortunately, Mir can't accept the sin of her partner and violently lashes out at him because of the ring, ultimately tackling Wazu until Mel asks her to stop so as not to destroy the inn. On the one hand, Ragnir angrily reprimands his friend for exchanging rings with another girl because their relationship might get intimate as time goes on, unaware that his over-assumptions irritate Mir even more. Thankfully, Megal believes Wazu that nothing really happens, but that is terrifyingly followed by a threat, so the human eases the situation by apologizing to Mir. He then shows the mesmerizing necklace as a token of gratitude for always helping him out, and the dragon princess happily accepts it by bursting into tears of happiness and hugging Wazu. Ragnir is also crying, but it's because his gifts haven't moved Mir into tears even once, so he can't just forgive Wazu, isn't he? The following morning, Wazu wakes up on the floor because Muir sleeps in the guy's room and monopolizes the bed, forcing him to get up until Emma suddenly barges into the room, panicking. Unfortunately, she's late to realize that the adventurer is lying on the floor, which enables him to see the receptionist's pink, uncharted territory. Emma instantly offers him two choices for his sin, and Wazu chooses to be given an unreasonable quest, rather than public humiliation. Well, good choice. As a result, Emma informs him about the sudden appearance of a poison swamp in Linux southern forest and asks how much poison resistance he has. Proudly, Wazu shows his guild card and presents the note saying any abnormal statuses do not affect him whatsoever. Emma's reaction is a bit aching in his heart, though. Imagine someone calling you monstrous. That said, it is partially true, so Wazu prepares for the investigation quest by leaving Mir to her family to prevent the dragon princess from the dangers of the poison. Mel, on the other hand, reminds Wazu to be careful because she has bad feelings about this, like Ragnar, who eventually tells his friend to bring him along. However, seeing Wazu refusing forces the Dragon King to spot some reassuring words, specifically, "Isn't it also okay to depend on me sometimes?" Regrettably, he looks like a useless father in his human form, according to Wazu. So Ragnar undoes his transformation and urges the adventurer to ride on his back as it will be undeniably easier and not physically taxing for him this way. Without further ado, the two take off and soar in the skies to reach the swamp as soon as possible. After all, the overly cloudy air surrounding the atmosphere feels so ominous even for Mel and Megal that they conclude something really evil is approaching the city, worrying Mare, who now feels more concerned about her partner's safety. Moving on to the dark alley, the black blaze you miss so much makes their appearance once again, still feeling bitter about their humiliating defeat as they discuss how an aloof guy like Wazu can be a tamer that is rumored to tame even the Dragon King. In conclusion, the red orb is the reason they can think of, and a passing peddler, Shiro, validates their suspicion as he tells them that strong adventurers also possess one or two of the red spheres that are improved not to take the sanity of the user. With all of that said, he shows them the notorious orb, persuading the three with tempting words that this can give them the strength to defeat the Dragon King, along with a staggering discount, of course. In fact, that is the main reason these A-ranked adventurers purchase the product, so Shiro leaves with a sinister grin after asking where the City Lord's mansion is, hinting that something worse will befall Tata with his arrival in Linux. But in case you're wondering, this is the new version of Shiro, who is not your typical mysterious husbando, but still Shiro. Bear with it. Meanwhile, Wazu and Ragnar finally arrive in the southern forest, but find out that the miasma is getting stronger as they approach it, and it is trying to corrupt the whole forest. Therefore, they land at the entrance, and Ragnar plans to end the problem with a single fire breath, but Wazu stops him before he can start, refusing to turn the woods into a barren wasteland. Seeing him act this way makes Ragnar wonder what the source of his confidence is, so he turns into a human to observe the adventurer and find out. Nonetheless, the investigation comes first, so the two wander around the forest devoid of any animals due to the poison, which is starting to smell like lemon to the glutton. In any case, Ragnar finally asks about the boy's inhuman power, so Wazu tells him a bit of his experiences, especially his desperate wish not to perish and have his life come to an end pathetically. Furthermore, Wazu mentions eating weird things to quell his starvation in the past, which also becomes the reason why his stats have increased. But for the Dragon King, Wazu's divine protection, Mir's affection, and the trust coming from the people he has met means that this young man has the power to draw people into him from the beginning. However, Wazu doesn't believe that, given he has no friends, and this boy doesn't consider Ragnar as one simply because he's not a human, says the guy who treats an elf as a potential lover. Putting that aside, Wazu reveals not wanting to eat anything weird anymore because he's afraid his humanity will decrease to 0%. But it seems like that's the end of their conversation as the miasma suddenly gets stronger and more dangerous for Ragnar at least. After all, the cause of the poison swamp finally appears to welcome them as a bat-looking creature shows itself with a monstrous screech. Turns out its bodily fluids are the ones corroding the land, which results in the creation of the swamp, making it difficult for Ragnar to attack, given that simply touching it may cost them their lives. Corrosion? What's that? Is that edible? Wazu thinks so as he then smashes his fist at the monster despite Ragnar's cautious reminders, ultimately grabbing the enemy's core and easily breaking it with a single grip, which leads to a successful subjugation and the jaw-dropping reaction of the Dragon King. Ragnar is baffled upon witnessing this absurd scene of a potentially formidable enemy falling into the hands of the human, like some kind of small fry. All of a sudden, Wazu catches sight of a red marble where the remains of the monster are located and remembers that it is quite similar to what Gazuna had eaten, but immediately deems it as a mere imagination. Eventually, the red sphere ceases into nothing, so the two move on as they still need to do something to this poison swamp. Of course, burning it is still a no-go, so Wazu touches the poison and does the unthinkable of taking a fingerful of the substance and tasting it. Yep, it tastes like citrus fruit. Learning that the poison is surprisingly delicious, Wazu drinks directly from the swamp while ignoring the Dragon King's comments filled with common sense. Basically, he doesn't mind any of Ragnir's words and glugs the so-called citrus until its last drop and Wazu's tummy bloats. He's pretty satisfied though, mainly because the forest is now safe and the fortress town of Linux won't be in danger anymore. Not to mention Ragnir's worries have diminished. To their surprise, the ground suddenly shines and illuminates a bright light that envelops the adventurer's body. In the depths of his mind, Wazu enters a relaxed state and hears an unfamiliar voice thanking him for his kindness, which soothes the young man as she wonders who is talking to him. When the strange phenomenon ends, however, Ragnir sees Wazu passing out and immediately rushes to his aid to wake him up, but to no avail as the bulge in the guy's stomach has also magically disappeared. And Ragnir can only conclude that Wazu has drew in a rather outrageous existence this time. Not wasting any moment, Ragnir flies home with Wazu sleeping on his back, contemplating how strong the adventurer is that he's ignorant of how ordinary people act. Nonetheless, the Dragon King knows that Wazu is a kind person who wants to save other people, and that may be the reason why Mir is fond of him. With that said, Ragnir promises to lend this sleeping guy his strength when needed, and declares to the night sky that, yeah, they're going to be best buds. The following day, Reagan feels happy after knowing that Wazu has solved their problem in the poison swamp, but he seems a tad bit worried that the savior of the day is sluggish to the point that Reagan assumes Wazu drinks the swamp's poison. 100% correct. Still, the guildmaster is genuinely concerned, so he urges Wazu to rest, but it turns out the adventurer has an appointment with Nenya and Tada. Speaking of them, Reagan informs Wazu about the good news. They finally have evidence of the city lord's crimes and are planning to sue him first thing tomorrow. Wazu is excited to witness Tata's freedom, and of course officially have her as a friend, but an underlying problem still occurs as Reagan suspects their opponent to do something in this city tonight. Thus, Wazu accepts the bodyguard duty, but it seems like the terrible feeling in his stomach will become a slight problem. On his way to Tata, Wazu wonders why he's feeling like this when abnormal effects should all be nullified, so the goddess replies to him, albeit with another question, asking why he brings another woman to their quote-unquote love nest, which is by the way referring to the guild card. To Wazu's tremendous shock, the divine woman mentions the goddess of Mother Earth as it turns out that another entity has entered the card and is defending her position to be there and be part of Wazu's harem. She then thanks the adventurer for saving the forest from the poison swamp and the potential wildfire, thus granting him divine protection from Mother Earth herself. With a puff, the guild card changes and the stats inside go up by miles that Wazu is basically becoming a demigod, given he can now destroy the planet with one punch and probably not be hurt from almost every attack. Disappointingly for him, his human purity decreases to 78%, so Wazu learns that his sickness is thanks to this level up and not the poison. With that in mind, he rushes to the mansion and learns that Nenya is waiting for him, with her tail wagging while scolding Wazu for making them worried. She cuts straight to the point, though, and reminds Wazu to be in tip-top shape because the city lord might do something nasty tonight, only to see that the young man passes out and collapses on the ground. Hurriedly, Nenya rushes to his aid and tries to wake Wazu up, screaming his name until it echoes around the house, only to fail in the end. As the clouds darken in the fortress city of Linux, a horde of goblins gathers along with the Black Blaze, who have turned into their demonic forms, and an aristocratic man who lets out a loud roar in his castle. Behind all of these is a cloaked merchant who smiles in spite of the disappointment that none of these four have turned into his desired form, even with the red orbs. After all, this is already enough to bring chaos to the city right under the nose of the unconscious adventurer. In the guildmaster's office, Orlando hurriedly barges in, panicking, as he immediately informs Reagan about the report of a certain adventurer about the 1,000 goblins approaching the southern gates of their city. As the horde of monsters marches to conquer the fortress town, Wazu is still sleeping in Tata's lap, unaware of all the events. Even when he finally wakes up and finds himself living the otaku's dreams, the cherry boy quickly gets up, however, and seems to have lost control of his composure while recalling the incident regarding the goddess. Hysterically, Wazu asks Tata if he still looks like a human and lets her touch and pinches his cheeks to confirm it as he closes his eyes while begging her to reveal if there's anything weird in his body. Instead of answering, Tata uses this opportunity opportunity to get closer to Wazu by attempting to land a kiss without him knowing. But this one-in-a-million moment is unfortunately interrupted by Nenya, who suddenly barges in to bring water for Wazu. Contrary to her words, the Beast Girl wags her tail from happiness and, along with Tata, thanks the adventurer for getting rid of the poison swamp and saving the city. As a result, they wonder what is the source of his superhuman strength and teasingly persuade Wazu to reveal it. That doesn't last long, fortunately, because Tata respects the adventurer's secret and finally answers Wazu's question earlier, erasing the anxiety the young man feels as she assures him that he truly is a human. With a sweet smile, Tata guarantees Wazu that she sees, believes it, and will continue to do so from then on, which moves the boy's heart as he stares at the woman's face. In the middle of it, however, a commotion forms outside, and one of the girls in the mansion enters the room to inform them about the approaching horde of goblins. Turns out, Garrett joins Reagan and other veteran adventurers to stop the monster stampede, but the number of their enemies is just too many for the situation to improve. In response to their call, Wazu shows a reassuring smile as he prepares himself to get moving and turn the tide in their favor. Regardless of his strength, Tata can't help but worry as she cries while reminding Wazu to put his safety first, rather than the capital, and not to overdo it to the point he'll get himself in danger. Wazu accepts her concerns and leaves Tata in Nenya's care before showing them his reliable back, saying he'll return. Unfortunately, Tata fails to stop the guy she likes from going into the battlefield and simply wishes him to be careful. Meanwhile, in the southern gate, the adventurers have gathered to subjugate the goblins, but they urge the guards first to raise the gate because Orlando doesn't want to do it in fear that the monsters will instantly destroy the capital due to their numbers advantage. Of course, this decision is hard for him to make, given that those who are already outside need reinforcements too. But just when everything is getting chaotic, Wazu passes through the crowd to come to his rescue. Thus, Orlando tells him about their dilemma because opening the gates will enable the 1,000 goblins to annihilate all of them, but not doing so will devoid Reagan and Garrett of backup adventurers. However, choosing who to protect the civilians living inside the fortress town or their combatants battling outside is just too impossible for Orlando, who can only wish he had the strength to shift the balance of the battle. Watching his frustration leads Wazu to a decision, and he asks Orlando to open the gates when he gives the signal, nonchalantly running away to a not-so-far distance and sprints once again, this time heading outside the city as he leaps above the walls to reach their opponents without endangering the citizens. Now Orlando is yelling in shock instead of crying. But that story is for next time as we then focus on the superhuman adventurer, watching the extraordinary amount of goblins looking like ants from where he is. With one punch, a plethora of goblins say goodbye to their life on Earth as they perish from the single yet powerful blow from Wazu. The impact of the attack creates a large crater surrounded by unconscious goblins, and this amount is more than enough for them to proceed to the next plan, so Wazu gives Orlando his much-awaited signal. Cautiously, the guard takes a quick peek outside, but it seems like it will go on for a few more seconds as he sees Wazu in the middle of fallen monsters waving at them and saying, "Give it your all, guys!" The adventurers' morale soars high as they rush toward the battlefield and fight the remaining goblins, stopping them from trampling their city. Moreover, Orlando is smiling now thanks to the adventurer who gives them this opportunity, leading Wazu to entrust the situation here to him while he looks for Reagan and Garrett. Fired up, Orlando replies with a genuine thank you, and it seems like Wazu is getting closer to having a human friend. Well, if you don't count Tata, Reagan, Lula, and the rest. However, the situation is not looking good on Reagan's side, because even after defeating quite a tremendous number of monsters, their numbers aren't really decreasing, and there is just no end to their parade. Garrett also knows about this, so he devises a plan to find and subjugate the stronger Goblin King to force these guys into dispersing. Of course, the difficulty will worsen, but the reinforcement finally arrives as Wazu shows up to surprise the Guildmaster. Reagan tells him about this unpredictable situation and the Goblin King who is controlling all of his minions, so Wazu casually suggests subjugating him, but it turns out that the dispersed following will be a greater risk for the nearby villages. Right when Wazu complains about what to do, a loud explosion occurs near the northern gate, and an injured adventurer rushes to the Guildmaster to report the appearance of the demon. He then informs Wazu, who doesn't know what devils are, that those creatures are magical beasts that were once human. Afterward, Wazu confirms that their appearance also changes into something definitely not human, and concludes it's the same case as with Kazuna, causing him to quickly head to the direction where the demon is spotted. Meanwhile, Tata also hears the explosion, and she rushes outside to find out what it is, worried about Wazu, even though it is so dangerous that Nenya urges her to return while guaranteeing Wazu's safety, unaware that someone is lurking behind her. When she realizes it, the demon has already struck Nenya away with a smack, knocking the girl down, while he, on the other hand, captures Tata, telling her, "You're mine." Those words force them to realize that the vicious demon right here is the wicked city lord himself, but Nenya is so powerless in her current state that she can only watch the man declare that he now has Tata, making them despair at the demon's and the goblin's power. As his sinister laugh goes on, Wazu rushes to the northern gate. In the desperate time at Linux, where the misfortune inside isn't known yet, the horde of goblins surrounds all the closed entrances to continue their attempt to enter the fortified city. Unfortunately, the terror reaches not just the citizens, but also the guildmaster's wife and daughter and the worried dragon royals, especially Mir, who can't even help her partner in this crucial time. After all, Wazu is rushing toward the blast near the northern gate, where he sees an often familiar trio whose clothes are ripped to shreds. Not even a second pass, and Wazu immediately recognizes the A-ranked adventuring party, although he already forgot they are now known by the name Dark Charcoal, and definitely not Black something. Even with this form, their anger issue remains, so Wazu gives one of them a smack in the face as a well-deserved present to congratulate them on turning into mindless beasts. Remembering Garret's words, Wazu swears he will save them from suffering, fully aware these guys can't return to being humans anymore. Thus, he throws a series of serious punches as a farewell to the three demons, and strikes them away until they can't fight or get up anymore. Thanks to that, the adventurers see hope, and they credit all of that to the tamer, who has a famous dragon. Nonetheless, these combatants can handle it from here now, so Wazu returns to Reagan and reports his success in defeating the demons. Moreover, his appearance is a big help even for the guildmaster, who counts on the C-ranked adventurer's strength to assist them in wiping out all the goblins, making Wazu so thrilled that this guy rushes toward the horde of monsters until he sees the wounded Nenya, who's too weak. She collapses on the ground as soon as seeing the adventurer. Bursting in tears, Nenya informs Wazu about the city lord's surprise attack using his new demon form, and she blames herself for not being able to protect Tata, which is also unbearable to hear for Wazu. When Reagan and Garret hear the news, they immediately fear the worst, confident that the city lord will surely marry Tata and make her his plaything for the rest of the woman's life, not to mention getting imprisoned and defiled until that trash is satisfied. In the past, the city lord disguised himself as a customer while Garret was away, allowing him to do nasty things, which leads to the woman's depression to the point she wishes to hasten her permanent departure and say goodbye to life. At that time, Tata can't help but fear being married to the city lord, not even experiencing genuine love because even if she manages to pay all the made-up debt, Tata is consumed by despair that no one will wholeheartedly like someone as tainted as her. Apparently, it's also the reason Nenya decides to do everything to protect her older sister from their vile enemy, although it is already too late now as she finally fails to make Tata happy. For sure, Wazu knows very well what the Nekomimi girl is feeling, but it seems like they can't wallow in melancholy any longer as the goblins charge ahead despite the adventurers' desperate efforts. Even though it'll be tougher for them, Garret and Reagan urge Wazu to hurry to Tata's aid because he's the only one who can save the impure maiden from the city lord's dirty claws. However, Wazu can't just abandon the already losing battlefield and let his allies get taken down by the goblins, leading to a mental dilemma that leaves him begging for someone's guidance. To his surprise, the one who answers is none other than the Dragon King, Ragnar, who considers the adventurer as his buddy. After all, the powerful royal finally arrives in the combat zone to assist these feeble humans, although he doesn't really know what exactly occurs here. Still, Ragnar's presence allows Wazu to make his way toward Tata without worries, and it seems like that is celebratory enough for him to finally call the Dragon King best bud after all this time of Loki considering only humans as possible friends. See, Ragnar has the potential to be a tsundere. Afterward, the Dragon King learns the exact numbers of the enemies from Reagan and concludes that these 800 goblins are perfect for turning into his roasted dinner later. Like father, like daughter, huh? Burning somebody into charcoal seems to be the Dragon Royal's hobby, so the Guildmaster warns everyone to fall back, not get caught up, and let the Dragon King cook. Not wasting time, Ragnar releases a fiery breath to incinerate the horde of monsters gathering around his line of fire, eventually roasting the netherworld out of them and lessening their numbers tremendously. All Hail the Dragon King can be heard in the background by some random adventurers as they celebrate their approaching victory. On the other hand, Ragnar tells Reagan that the reason he won't waste even a mere second in obliterating the enemies is that there are citizens inside the city trembling in fear, such as their daughters, Lula and Mir. With that said, these loving fathers charge toward the remaining goblins, along with the adventurers, to end this battle once and for all, in the name of their daughters, of course. Meanwhile, Tata arrives in the city lord's bedroom after getting captured by the vile and delusionary man who wants the girl all for himself. Obviously, he is not satisfied by spending the night with Tata in the mansion once, because this demon desires her to become his wife instead, even though the woman herself doesn't want to be a part of it, as she believes that her heart is still pure, despite the sullied body. However, the demonic aristocrat thinks of Tata as a mere lady of pleasure whose chastity is robbed by some random guy with the infamous bangs that cover their eyes. But for Tata, she's the one who took her maidenhood, and the true form of it will be for the one she truly loves, who is definitely not this demon. Oops, a slap right in his face. To add insult to another insult, Tata declares, "I will never be yours," as she already likes someone with all her heart, and that person is undeniably Wazu. Unfortunately, it's not a reason for the City Lord to stop his evil deeds, and he proceeds with it by forcing Tata to show. We won't let you take a peek, though. As I said, there is no fan service. Nonetheless, the degenerate commences his plan to impregnate Tata, only to receive a well-deserved kick from the adventurer, who arrives in the nick of time to save the maiden in love from the demon. As soon as she sees Wazu, Tata immediately embraces her savior, delighted that everything will be fine now that the guy she likes is here. Wazu reveals that the monster rampage outside the fortress town is close to getting resolved, and he manages to arrive in time thanks to Nenya telling him everything that happened. Before they proceed, however, the gentleman gives his shirt to Tata, who eventually cries as she wonders why in the world a kind adventurer is so kind to someone like her. Finally, Wazu can say a heart-throbbing one-liner that will ease Tata's worries, but the City Lord interrupts them to ask how on earth he enters the room. Jumped over the wall? Obviously, this demonic aristocrat doesn't believe Wazu can take down the B-ranked adventurer's guards, so the C-ranked shows the bunch of unconscious nobodies piling up. Apparently, Wazu gives them a taste of his special knuckle sandwich because they're hiding in the mansion even though everyone is fighting the monsters outside. Putting that aside, the puny human won't agitate the demon anymore as he flies around the ball of fire, confident his devilish power will render Wazu's effort useless. After all, the City Lord's water is the serpent that pierces through everything, and his flames apparently bore every creation, leading him to combine the two and send the fierce elemental blow toward Wazu, not even caring that Tata is still there. Well, I guess he can just heal her afterward. Yeah, it's probably the same healing time some of you think. Amidst the chaos happening inside and outside the city of Linek, the perpetrator watches all of them unfold from a safe place, surprised that the dull-looking guy he once met turns out to be a strong individual who even befriends the Dragon King. Regardless, Shiro believes Wazu will have a difficult time handling the extraordinary power of the demonic aristocrat, which seems to be the unfortunate truth as we go back to the battle scene, where two enormous balls of different elements are ready to devour the adventurer's very existence. Worried, Tata tells Wazu to run away, but all the guy can hear right now are the ara-ara noises coming from the two goddesses residing in his guild card. Needless to say, these heavenly entities who appear in the form of mere silhouettes are going to protect Wazu from the degenerate they call the Agent of Evil, giving the once betrayed adventurer the strength to defend himself from the life-ending magical spell that ultimately swirls in front of Wazu instead of hitting him. Eventually, Tata opens her eyes in spite of being terrified and sees the man she loves enduring the attack for them to be safe. The damsel in distress immediately tells him to escape and abandon her, but Wazu isn't the slightest bit worried as he assures the woman he's perfectly fine. Once again, Tata bursts into tears, wondering why Wazu is willing to endanger his life to help someone like her. Soon after, the noble demon's offensive spell disappears along with his composure as he finds out that the human who foils his plans is entirely unscathed. Ignoring the Lord's reaction, Wazu answers Tata's question with a loud and clear, "I like you," finally revealing his feelings and making the maiden-in-love red-faced from embarrassment. The same goes for him though, if not worse, because Wazu doesn't plan for this to happen, and it's more like an impulse action at this rate. Even so, Tata's opinion remains unchanged as she stops Wazu from loving a woman like her whose body is stained. Of course, the adventurer thinks that Tata is still pretty, even though the person herself disagrees because he is willing to ignore the lady's past, along with her sullied self. After all, the one Wazu likes is none other than Tata, who is standing right in front of him and not just any person. Those words move the young maiden, who's clearly in love with Wazu too, although the opposite can be said for the City Lord, who feels bitter at the guy's lovey-dovey conversation with his woman. It's exactly the reason he receives the sweet knuckle sandwich from the C-ranked adventurer, who evidently doesn't like his potential harem member to be owned by a degenerate noble boy. As a result, the same ominous ball that you are laughing so hard at in the comments comes out from the demon's mouth, allowing Wazu to confirm it really is similar to the ones Kazuna had. Thus, he exits the Count's mansion while carrying Tata in his arms, wondering if everyone is all right. Right in time, Ragnar and Reagan arrive along with Nenya and Garrett, who are completely safe in spite of their wounds. the Nekomimi girl hurriedly rushes to her not-biological elder sister while crying and blaming herself again. But she doesn't forget to smile at Wazu and thanks him wholeheartedly for saving Tata. Therefore, everyone returns to their family with large smiles on their faces and celebrates their well-deserved reunion in front of the Breeze of Light Inn now that the chaos has been quelled, thanks to Wazu and the others' heroic efforts. So everything except the protagonist is just a side note, huh, Gotta-san? The next day, Wazu greets the refreshing yet awfully weather morning with excitement, because today is the day when he will invite his beloved Tata to join his harem. Okay, a harem of friends. Although he's aware Mir might get upset, Wazu rushes to Garette's mansion in hopes that Tata will agree to be his companion who will accompany him on his adventures instead of a girlfriend invitation like we initially expected.